Ma Wu was an overpowered demon lord who lost a war against the hero and decided to live an ordinary life flipping burgers. However, everything changes after he somehow works at McDonald's with the hero, so now he has to rizz her up to survive. The story begins on a planet called Ent Isla, where Ma Wu, the demon overlord, and his elite generals are pushing to wipe out humanity. Amid the chaos, a hero named Amelia rises with her allies and manages to crush more than half of Ma Wu's army. Eventually, Ma Wu realizes he isn't going to win the war, so he opens a portal to another world and escapes with General Alciel, promising to return one day and destroy everything. The portal leads to Earth, where they are horrified to find that they now possess human bodies. While they crash out, a cop notices them and assumes they're displaced cosplayers on drugs. When he tries to get them in his car, Alciel thinks his life is in danger and tries casting a spell, only to make a goof of himself. After the display, he's forced into a car with Ma Wu and is driven off to the police station. There, Ma Wu uses what's left of his magic to hypnotize an officer into telling him everything about Earth, including the fact that there is no magic in this world. Afterward, they leave the police station, and Ma Wu decides they'll play by the world's rules until they figure something out. For the next few days, they create bank accounts and even find an apartment, but they also realize life is much harder on Earth, and they'll need to make money to survive. A few days later, Ma Wu lands a job at McDonald's, but he uses most of his earnings to buy home appliances and a bicycle, which leaves them broke again. As a result, Alciel starts complaining like an angry housewife. So Ma Wu bolts out of the room and rides his bike to his new workplace. On the way, it starts to rain, so he acts like a gentleman and gives his umbrella to a hot chick who's wet. At work, Ma Wu does a great job serving customers and works hard to increase his output, so his boss, Kisaki, decides to make him a full-time employee. As Ma Wu heads home, celebrating, he bumps into the same chick he gave his umbrella to, and the girl tells him she's been watching him ever since. She then asks why an overpowered demon lord like him is working at a restaurant, and that's when it hits Ma Wu that she's Amelia, the same hero who defeated him in his home planet. Shocked, Ma Wu asks Amelia what she's doing on Earth, so she tells him she followed his portal because she wants to end him. Scared for his life, Ma Wu begs that they talk things over first, but Amelia ignores him and draws a dagger to attack. Seeing her cheap dagger makes Ma Wu ask what happened to her sacred sword, and she tells him it's none of his business. Her reply gives him the hint that she's lost her powers, but when he calls her out on it, she replies by mocking him for having little magic left. She then assumes he'll be easy to take out and charges at him to fight. But the next thing she knows, she's at the police station in front of an officer who thinks she's having a lover's quarrel with Ma Wu. This assumption gets Amelia pissed, and she crashes out at the officer, saying she'd rather date a goat if men were scarce. After they get discharged from the station, Amelia tells Ma Wu she's only sparing him for the night, and that next time his sausage isn't the only thing she'll chop off. Ma Wu replies that she doesn't sound heroic with her threats, so she tells him she isn't going to take advice from a broke dude that flips burgers for a living. The following day, at Amelia's job, Rika, her colleague, tells her they should try out McDonald's for lunch, but Amelia tells her it's the last place she wants to go. After work, Amelia returns home and freaks out because her boring life is no different from Ma Wu's. A while later, she shows up at Ma Wu's apartment and mocks the place for being smaller than Taylor Swift's backyard. While Ma Wu screams justice for flat girls, Amelia spots what he's having for dinner and wonders why an overlord is eating cucumbers soaked in honey.
I can't eat! I'm broke!
Ma Wu immediately blames Alciel for the meal, so Amelia doesn't think he's the kind of guy that gets piped on Friday night. Eventually, he sucks it up and reveals that he's broke, but it makes Amelia crash out because she traveled across the galaxy to end him, and he's already ending himself with his poor meal choice. Out of curiosity, Ma Wu asks about her comrades who traveled with her, so she reveals that she's the only one who made it through the portal. Alciel then mocks her for getting stranded in another world, while Ma Wu tells her to find a way to go back to Ent Isla because he doesn't have the funds to move to another apartment just because she's found him. He then reveals his intentions for this world, signaling that he'll take over Japan first. When Amelia doubts him, he counters by revealing that he's already a full-time employee and that all he needs to do is make money and gain status, and the rest will be history. As he finishes his speech, Alciel claps for his greatness, while Amelia tells him that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be launched before he even makes $5,000. Before leaving, she tells Ma Wu she can take him out with what's left of her magic, and she's only holding back because she hasn't found a way back to her world. The following day, after Amelia returns from work, she spies on Ma Wu's apartment because she isn't buying his act of living in poverty. Soon, Alciel and Ma Wu leave the apartment in haste, and Amelia overhears how they want to take a bloody bath. It makes her assume they are about to attack innocents, but it turns out both creeps are going to the bathhouse for a warm dip. The following day, Amelia turns down Rika's request to join her for a girls' night out, and it makes Rika think she has a boyfriend. After the day's work, Amelia spies on Ma Wu's apartment and overhears Alciel saying something about a demonic experiment. She immediately assumes they are doing something evil, only to be disappointed when she realizes they're rubbing their cucumbers with honey to make them taste like melons. The following day, Amelia shows up at McDonald's and asks to see him after work, but Ma Wu fakes a smile and treats her like she's an ordinary customer. When Amelia gets fed up and leaves, a milk-jaked employee named Cheeto asks Ma Wu if he's friends with Amelia. So Ma Wu says they have a complicated relationship. The reply makes Cheeto suspicious of Ma Wu and Amelia, though she remarks that Amelia is hot. After Cheeto is done with the day's work, she asks Ma Wu if he is alright after yesterday's earthquake. Immediately, Ma Wu recalls there was one, but he remarks that his roommate didn't notice it. The word roommate makes Cheeto freak out and assume he's living with his girlfriend, but Ma Wu casually replies that he's living in poverty with an old friend, and it makes Cheeto feel better. Later that evening, Ma Wu meets Amelia, who weirdly asks if he wants to keep living in this world. Ma Wu says no and wonders why she's asking, so she reveals that she's been watching him for days now and that she's noticed he's been living a simple life. As a result, she promises not to unalive him if he keeps living a simple life in this world, but Ma Wu refuses and straight up tells her that he'll return to conquer Ent Isla. Right then, his bike takes some damage, and he begins crashing out because he has a flat tire. However, he notices his bike gets hit with a bullet and realizes that someone is targeting him and Amelia. As a result, he jumps on Amelia to prevent her from taking a hit, but the chick tells him to get off her before her belly gets fat by morning. After that, they run for their lives and take a breather under a building, hoping no one is chasing them. Curious, Amelia asks what's going on, so Ma Wu reveals that their shooter used magic bullets, meaning the person behind it is powerful and knows their real identities. He figures their shooter is from Ent Isla and blames Amelia for everything because she picked the worst time to meet him. After another argument, Ma Wu decides to go home, but insists that Amelia stay vigilant on her way back. To Ma Wu's shock, he meets Amelia in front of his house and wonders if she's out to take his life. But Amelia declines and begs him to let her spend the night at his place, since she's lost her wallet. Minutes later, Alciel is stunned to his bones when he learns that Amelia is sleeping over, because he's never heard of a Demonlord and a hero sleeping together. However, Ma Wu tells him all that happened earlier and invites Amelia in. He then tosses Amelia a blanket and some cash, telling her to be on the first train by morning. On the other hand, Alciel makes a big deal about Ma Wu being nice to her, and it gets her pissed, wishing she hadn't lost her wallet. The following morning, after Amelia had left, they learn that she had left pickles for them as a method of appreciation. Ma Wu suddenly spots his door key on the ground and concludes that Amelia must have locked the door from the outside before tossing the key inside. While they were asleep, Alciel doesn't find it surprising and calls her mess goody two-shoes. Curious, Ma Wu asks him what he'd have done in her case, and Alciel replies that he'd have locked them in and taken the key along with him. After hearing him out, Ma Wu calls him evil, and Alciel says he is a demon after all. When Amelia gets home, she has a good bath and tries to forget the humiliation she went through by staying over at Ma Wu's place. After she freshens up, she turns on the TV and sees that the incident that happened the previous night is airing on the news. As the police cover the crime scene with tape, the reporter announces that they are looking for the bike owner. To her surprise, she spots Ma Wu and Alciel there, so she calls them fools while saying it's got nothing to do with her. The police start suspecting the latest robberies happening in the town to be related to that incident. Meanwhile, at Cheeto's residence, Cheeto's mom, who hears the news, asks her daughter if the place wasn't close to her place of work. But the airhead, who is zoned out, continues fiddling with her phone. Cheeto rereads the message she had texted Ma Wu regarding wanting to meet up because she can tell when the next earthquake will happen. She suddenly receives a message from him, informing her that he'll meet with her after work. So she starts acting delusional like a girl from a Disney tune. Later that day, at Amelia's workplace, her persistent coworker asks her to join her at lunch. Amelia turns her down, but this time with a valid excuse, which was about her missing purse. Amelia continues her work, but she receives an anonymous call directed at her. The person on the other end of the line knows about her as the hero, and also about Ma Wu. He promises to get rid of them in the interest of Ent Isla. She gets creeped out by the bozo and wonders who he is. As she tries to suppress her emotions, the weirdo on the line tells her that he'll see her soon before ending the call. Amelia freaks out like a girl, but quickly corrects herself while acting like she's addressing a customer. She notes he sounds like a demon general and wonders if there's any left after Alciel. She then decides to have lunch with her nosy coworker. But before they can get down to it, Amelia receives a call from the police. Moments later, she acts as a guarantor for the pesky demons at the police station and gets mad at them for choosing to involve her in their mess. She asks them why, and they explain with a straight face that it's their job to cause her trouble since she's the hero. Alciel reminds her that she should know her place because they showed her kindness. Annoyed, Amelia yells at them for not having anything in their fridge despite their claim of showing her hospitality. She then tells Ma Wu that someone is targeting them and he had best stay alive until she takes him down. With that, she storms off, and Ma Wu thinks about it before informing Alciel he has plans to meet with Chiho after work. Chiho finally gets home from school and changes into a stunning dress to meet with her date. Alciel, on the other hand, decides to take his master to get him some good clothes to put on, but Ma Wu complains about not letting him put on his usual wear. Luckily for him, his roommate has seen a lot of shoujo anime, and he educates him on being a proper man. Chiho later takes the train and steals her resolve as she goes to meet him. Upon seeing Ma Wu dripping in his new outfit, Chiho nearly sogs her plot armor out of admiration. She picks a cafe for their date, and Ma Wu, not being a complete miser, offers to pay for their meal. Since it's a date, Chiho asks if they can do the most prominent thing in all slice of life manga, so they hold hands while heading to their destination. Coincidentally, Amelia closes from work and spots Alciel acting like a stalker, so she approaches him. Suddenly, she sees Ma Wu with a cute girl, so she grabs Alciel, demanding to know what they want to do with Chiho. After getting schooled, Alciel spills everything and tells Amelia that Ma Wu is on a date with her. Amelia wonders how Ma Wu was able to pull a hottie because he seems pretty Rizzless to her. She sizes Chiho up, and after seeing her milkers are ranked, Amelia defends herself, yelling contrary to a certain website's quote that bigger isn't always better. She knows deep down that Ma Wu will lose that night. Still suspicious about Chiho's earthquake texts, Amelia walks right into the coffee shop. Meanwhile, Chiho explains how her ears ring whenever an earthquake is about to happen. At first, she played it off, but one time she heard voices in her room. Even though it was in another strange language, she understood everything. As she spoke, Ma Wu hypothesized that it was possibly a magic sonar that was used to locate him and Amelia. He then sees Amelia and Alciel entering the cafe and nearly chokes on his drink. He tells Chiho that warning the people around her will be a great help. As she feels reassured, she thanks him for believing in her. But just as she's about to ask him out, Amelia shows up and accuses Ma Wu of being a scumbag. Chiho gets upset with her and asks why she's always lurking around him. She concludes that Amelia is Ma Wu's ex who can't get over the taste of his sausage, but Amelia flares up and they start shouting at each other. As Ma Wu tries to calm them down, a big earthquake happens. It shakes the ground, and the entire room caves in. Luckily for the girls, they aren't hurt. Chiho then starts worrying about Ma Wu, but Amelia tells her not to. They finally introduce themselves and call a truce on the matter. As they blabber on, Amelia tells Chiho she shouldn't get too close to Ma Wu, so she uses magic on Chiho, causing her to pass out. As soon as she falls unconscious, Amelia calls out to Ma Wu, who isn't far away, and she sees he's in his demon form. Confused and agitated, she considers using all her magic to summon her sword and take him out. But to her surprise, he tells her to take care of Chiho. He tries to push the fallen debris away, and Amelia wonders why he is saving people. After Ma Wu rescues everyone, the police get there and notice that there are no casualties. Amelia looks confused as to why Ma Wu helped the civilians. She recalls how she used to enjoy her days on the farm with her father. On a certain day, a man visited them and informed her dad about the Demonlord's conquest, but she believed that the Holy Army would put a stop to the siege. A while later, the priest and the people of the church showed up at her doorstep, and her father informed her that she was the offspring of an angel who could take down the Devil King's army. With that, the church took her away, and it was the last time she saw her dad. A few days later, she learned that Lucifer had burnt down her hometown. Ever since, she vowed to learn to fight so she could defeat the Demonlord. Currently, Ma Wu tries to get her attention, but she instinctively jumps back. He tells her that he was worried if she was okay. Amelia then realizes he looks homeless, so she calls him a bum. Suddenly, a police officer calls out to Chiho and confirms she is his fellow officer's daughter. Upon doing so, Ma Wu realizes that it was her father he used magic on when he first arrived in this world. He then leaves her at her request so her father doesn't find out about her movement. He later informs Amelia about the illusion he placed on Chiho's father when he first came to Japan, and he believes it's resonating in Chiho. Ma Wu then tells her that the earthquake wasn't a coincidence but a planned attack by their foe. Ma Wu concludes that the foe was nearby and couldn't use the same magic because he started regaining his powers. When Amelia prods further to know who the foe is, Rika calls out to her, so Amelia goes to meet her. After she leaves, Alciel grovels before Ma-Wu, begging because he bailed when he was needed the most. Ma-Wu doesn't count it as a big deal. Later that night, Amelia stays over at Rika's home where she's pampered. Rika tells Amelia that one shouldn't be alone in such times. Suddenly, a call comes in, and Rika explains to her relatives that she wasn't caught up in the earthquake. After the call, Rika reveals she's from a different town in Japan and once experienced a terrible earthquake. Rika doesn't explain further and tells Amelia that she has things she can't talk about even when asked. After listening to her, Amelia relates to Rika and remembers her dad's case. Rika suddenly hugs Amelia and thanks her for not prying further. On the other hand, Alciel keeps apologizing to Ma-Wu as they head home. They are then stopped by a police officer who advises them like a drunk uncle. While at it, Ma-Wu gets suspicious. As for Amelia, she prepares to take her bath, but while at it, Rika asks her about Ma-Wu and concludes he's her boyfriend. Amelia denies it vehemently, but Rika calls Ma-Wu a nice guy since she can tell Amelia is close to him. Shortly afterward, Amelia takes her bath, and she feels unusually warm. Unknown to her, a white feather drops into the bathtub and dissolves. The following day, she goes to Ma-Wu's house and hands him an envelope. At first, he is suspicious, but when she mentions that it's the money he borrowed from her earlier, the miser grabs it and checks if it's complete. After that, he asks her why she's at his place, since she promised not to disturb him for a while. But Amelia tells him their contact is void since she vouched for him. Concerned, she asks for Alciel, and Ma-Wu says Alciel is fine, but his mental state is broken. Ma-Wu in return asks her if she's okay, but the flustered redhead asks if he's her boyfriend. He shoos her away, but as she storms off, he warns her to be careful of all Granny's nightmares. Unfortunately for her, she falls like the Twain Towers. Moments later, Alciel roasts her for tainting his master's name by losing to the stairs. He then goes to get some bandages from the nearest pharmacy, and Ma-Wu tries helping Amelia treat her bruises, but she tells him to stay back. She gets mad at him and asks him why he is so nice, since he is the Demonlord who committed vile things in the past. She blames him for her dad's death, reminding him that his army burned her dad's field and eliminated him. To her surprise, Ma-Wu apologizes, saying he never understood people. As she opens her floodgates, Alciel and Cheeto walk in. Cheeto immediately gets the wrong idea and storms off in tears, giving Ma-Wu zero chance to explain his side. Coincidentally, the landlady, Mekity, sees Cheeto and also concludes the situation is a lover's quarrel. Mekity hands Ma-Wu a letter of consent, informing him that she'd like to refurbish the apartment due to the recurring earthquakes. She tells them that another one will happen soon, so she's trying to protect the house. Before she leaves, she tells them that Cheeto is running toward the station and urges Ma-Wu to take responsibility. While everyone in the room is shocked that the landlady isn't an ordinary human, the earth rumbles once again. Mekity then explains that Cheeto is being targeted by the sonar, so she urges him to hurry. Meanwhile, while Amelia's friends fly through the wormhole that leads to Japan, Cheeto cries from heartbreak and runs into a random emo-looking dude. The boy then tells her he'd like to feed on her envy and despair toward Ma-Wu and Amelia. Suddenly, the emo boy sprouts dark wings and destroys an entire building. When Ma-Wu gets there, he realizes that the flying person is Lucifer, one of his 4 generals. While Lucifer speaks to Amelia and Ma-Wu, Amelia wonders why Lucifer is still alive because she remembers poking him with her holy sword. Ma-Wu speaks to Lucifer and tells him that he wouldn't be there without the help of someone else. He then urges the person to come out. Suddenly, Orba, a member of the hero's team, reveals himself. Confused, Amelia asks him why he betrayed her, but Ma-Wu says exactly what happened like a generic movie script. While there's serious tension in the air, Alciel gets mad at Ma-Wu for going over budget by spending their hard-earned savings on movies. Ma-Wu tries to defend himself, but Lucifer shoots Alciel down with a beam. Despite being gravely injured, Alciel tells Ma-Wu to only watch movies during monthly discounts to reduce expenses. Immediately, Lucifer creates magic circles and rains magic bullets on them, but Ma-Wu creates a shield to briefly protect them. After that, they turn tail, using the debris to create distance between them and Lucifer. Amelia wonders how Lucifer can use so much magic on Earth, but Ma-Wu explains that it's because Lucifer feeds on negative energy. Ma-Wu then concludes that Lucifer was behind the recent vile happenings in their vicinity, and that must have been what powered him up. To their surprise, they see Lucifer right ahead of them. The fallen angel then asks Ma-Wu why he didn't feed on people's fear and conquer Earth, as he once did to Ent Isla, but Ma-Wu shocks them by saying he loves humans and wants to do things differently. Lucifer calls Ma-Wu a softie and then says he'll rule Earth in his stead. He shows them he has captured Cheeto and then fires magic bullets at them. As they run for their lives, Ma-Wu gets shot in the shoulder. He whines about how weak the human body is. Suddenly, Orba shoots his leg with a Glock, inhibiting his movement. Ma-Wu then grabs Amelia and teleports with her. They land at a station where lots of people are, and Amelia scolds Ma-Wu for being a dimwit. Lucifer arrives shortly and makes a see-through hole out of his master. He then drops Chiho to the ground, but Amelia injures herself while preventing Chiho from looking like mashed cheese. Lucifer then destroys the bridge to crush everyone, but to his surprise, his power doesn't grow. Instead, Ma-Wu appears while looking ripped, and he carries the broken bridge with telekinesis. Contrary to his buffed appearance, the pathetic Demonlord begs the hero to get away from the bridge because it's too heavy. Amelia realizes that he teleported them intentionally to feed on the people's fears. Chiho opens her eyes, and she sees that the cute and kind Ma-Wu has turned into a macho man from World War II. Amelia suddenly pulls out her holy sword and goes through her Power Rangers transformation. Ma-Wu then casts a magical field around, making all the humans fall asleep so Amelia can go all out against Lucifer. She takes off and fights the fallen angel, but he overpowers her. To her surprise, Alciel rescues her while looking all smug. He tells her Ma-Wu had saved him back then, but since it's only natural for a villain to wear a cape, he had to fetch his. Orba then tries to pull in a sneak attack on him, but Amelia knocks his Glock off. Lucifer then urges the bald fool to use his magic in battle, all out else they'd lose. Immediately, an intense battle breaks out, and Ma-Wu watches like a pathetic side character. Chiho struggles to process what's happening with her pea-brain, but it can't keep up. Frustrated, Ma-Wu gently puts down the bridge and decides to join the fight. The bald geezer tries to attack him, but Ma-Wu uses a simple glare to knock him out. Lucifer also goes for a follow-up, but Ma-Wu flash steps before him and asks Lucifer if he prayed today. Right after that, he gives Lucifer a lip job that can block the sun and wraps up the battle. Moments later, Ma-Wu looks like he just had an encounter with lone sharks, while Chiho wonders who they are, so they introduce themselves as people from another world. Amelia clarifies to Chiho that nothing is going on between her and Ma-Wu. She then asks Ma-Wu if he'll be going back to the other world since he just regained his powers, but Ma-Wu says he has a lot of work shifts that month. Lucifer, who has been sidelined, asks what's going to happen to him, so Amelia, who has been curious about how he contacted her, asks him about it. To her surprise, Lucifer brings out her wallet. Disgusted, Ma-Wu hits him for stooping so low. While the mini commotion continues, Amelia's friends come out from a gate and rush to meet her. Moments later, the hero's party heads to Ma-Wu's house under his instruction. Upon getting there, the newbies are bewildered by Ma-Wu's place. Meanwhile, Ma-Wu uses his magic to restore the town to normal. In his apartment, Amelia's friends explain how the sonars they used to pinpoint Ma-Wu are what caused the earthquake. Chiho then asks why she can hear them, and they explain that it was constructed to work on people who thought about the Demonlord all the time. She blushes very hard after realizing how she buried herself by asking. The following day, as Amelia's party prepares to depart, they tell Amelia to join them as soon as possible. The party wonders if Ma-Wu is truly the Demon King due to his actions of fixing everything with 0 casualties. At Ma-Wu's workplace, Chiho asks him if he'll be going back to his world, but he says he won't since he has used up his magic. Chiho gets excited, seeing that she'll have more shots at his glizzy, but she then gets mad at him for offering to wipe her memory. Days later, Ma-Wu and Alciel dine at a barbecue restaurant to celebrate his recent promotion. The wretched worker gets so carried away while eating that he starts acting like an otaku. He asks Alciel if they should also get dinner for Lucifer, who recently started staying with them, but Alciel tells him it won't be necessary. Alciel also tells Ma-Wu that Lucifer has been ruining their budget because of his online shopping addiction and suggests that Ma-Wu punish him severely for it. On Ent Isla, a girl reports to the high priests in a church that Orba has failed his mission and has gone missing. That's not enough. She tells them that Amelia and Ma-Wu are still alive and that Emerata has already spread the word about Orba being in apostate. The priests freak out, so the girl tells them they are left with 2 choices. Either they confirm to everyone that Orba is an apostate, or they eliminate Amelia, Emerata, and Albert. Back in Japan, Ma-Wu and Alciel return home and give Lucifer a small pork bowl, but the ungrateful bastard bitterly complains about it. Alciel reminds him to know his place and tells him that Ma-Wu is the reason he isn't homeless. Ma-Wu asks Lucifer to demonstrate what he has learned through the use of the computer, and he agrees to do it. To prove his computer skills to Ma-Wu, Lucifer places a call to Amelia, who is at work. Recognizing the caller's voice, Amelia asks him why he's calling her during her work hours, and he tells her Lucifer is trying out a hacking experiment. Later on at work, Chiho congratulates Ma-Wu on being promoted to shift manager in less than a year since he joined the business. Ma-Wu plays it cool, telling her it's just a temporary position to fill in for the boss when she's not around. Chiho then asks if it means he'll get to temporarily rule over humans, But to their surprise, Amelia barges into the restaurant and confronts Ma Wu, telling him she wants to talk to him. He tells her it's rude because he's currently working, and she calls him the pot, calling the kettle black. Back at home, Lucifer surfs the net and complains about how the ancient computer can't run Tetris, which means he'll give up on his dream of playing Fortnite. While at it, he stumbles across a list of Shibuya's scary spots. Alciel, on the other hand, comes back from the library and learns there's a place in Turkey that might be able to assist Ma Wu in regaining his power. He gets home and finds a letter to Ma Wu from the landlady. During that time, Ma Wu takes some time off to speak with Amelia outside. She asks him why Lucifer is with him, so Ma Wu explains that since Orba has been arrested, Lucifer has to lie low. Surprise, Amelia asks him how it's comfortable for the three of them to live in that tiny apartment, and Ma Wu replies that he doesn't have a choice. He tells her that he has run out of magical energy, so he can't open the gate back to Ent Isla. Amelia then runs it on him, saying she has more than enough to go back to their world. Confused, he asks her why, and she replies that it is her duty as the hero to keep a close eye on him. When Ma Wu returns home, he finds Lucifer passed out on the floor and notices a white envelope beside him. He tries to pick up the envelope, but Alciel, who has been mentally scared, advises Ma Wu not to because the envelope contains a photo of Mekadi in a swimsuit. Ma Wu makes fun of them, but after getting a glimpse, he makes a tactical retreat. He then asks Lucifer for his recent findings regarding magic in their current world, and Lucifer shows him on the computer a particular haunted classroom in Sasahata North High. Eventually, Ma Wu and Alciel visit the school and see Chiho. She sees them standing in front of the school gate and waves at them excitedly. Once her classmate learns about Ma Wu and Alciel, her fanfic imagination shoots through the roof. Later at work, Ma Wu asks Chiho about the haunted classroom, and she tells him all there is to know about it. She then agrees to take him and Alciel there. They wait till nighttime before heading back to the school. Chiho leads the way as she takes Ma Wu and Alciel to the sealed classroom. On their way there, Chiho tells them the 7 mysteries associated with the school. As she mentions the 6, Ma Wu cowers in his boots. Suddenly, his phone rings, and the supposed Demonlord freaks out. Lucifer, who is at the other end of the call, informs him that the haunted location is likely where a gate was formerly opened. Hence, the missing student who mysteriously disappeared from the classroom was likely sucked into the gate, and Lucifer believes that if his hypothesis is true, then they can absorb the leftover energy for themselves. Footsteps suddenly echo from a distance, forcing everyone to stay on their toes. Alciel believes he can take down the unknown person with his trump card, the landlady's swimsuit photo. To their surprise, Amelia emerges from the dark while glaring at the demons suspiciously. A while later, Chiho briefs her on the situation, and she joins them. Unknowingly to the group, they are being watched from afar by someone within the old school. Upon arriving at the classroom, Alciel notices that the place has been assessed frequently. They head inside and see it's littered with food wrappings and a game console. Lucifer then contacts them and reluctantly reveals that he and Orba were the ones living there since they were homeless. He then tries to get them to bring back his game console to him. Realizing they've been played, they leave the building in disappointment. But on their way out, Chiho notices a Nubudon wrapper. The next day at work, Ma Wu sees an envelope on the table. He takes a peek at the picture within and instantly passes out. The following night, Ma Wu returns home from work and finds a girl dressed in a kimono crouched outside his door. He asks her who she is, but she falls down the stairs before she can answer. The next morning, while Ma Wu and Alciel have their breakfast, they hear a knock on the door. Wondering who it could be, they open the door only to meet Suzuno Kamizuki, the girl who had fallen down the apartment stairs the previous day. Suzuno introduces herself as their new neighbor and apologizes for any disturbance caused by her the previous day. She offers them a box of noodles as a token of her gratitude. Alciel introduces himself as a friend of Ma Wu's, and Suzuno tells him that she had already been briefed about them by the landlady, who advised her to turn to them in case she ran into any problems. She notices Lucifer, sitting unbothered in the apartment. Ma Wu introduces him as their third roommate, who leeches off them like a shut-in neat. Suzuno offers her greetings to him before taking her leave. Meanwhile, Amelia receives a box package from Emerata, so she calls her to find out what it's for. Emerata tells her the box contains sacred power, which she had converted into the form of energy drinks so it wouldn't stand out in Japan. She tells Amelia that she can restore her sacred power by drinking them and specifically warns her to be more attentive to the dosage. Emerata strictly instructs her not to exceed the 2-bottle-per-day dosage so as not to incur some side effects, then she hangs up. In the scorching sun, Amelia goes over to Ma Wu's apartment to check up on him. she suddenly notices a girl in a kimono assisting Lucifer with his laundry, so Amelia concludes the show producer wants to give away her position as best girl. Curious, she sneaks into their building and observes as Suzuno teaches Lucifer some home survival skills. While Suzuno cooks, she notices they're out of ginger, so she leaves to get some from her apartment. Upon hearing this, Amelia, who has been eavesdropping from the corridor, runs off but falls victim to her worst nightmare again. When she opens her eyes, she realizes that Mawu had caught her midair. Rather than being grateful, she hits him hard in the face. A while later, Suzuno apologizes to Amelia for startling her by suddenly opening the door. Amelia tells her not to worry about it, saying it's her fault for falling in the first place. Mawu, on the other hand, makes fun of her, questioning if she can still call herself a hero if she keeps falling down the stairs so easily. Lucifer, who had been busy picking up Amelia's scattered belongings from the fall, heads inside and hands them over to her. He notices the energy-boosting drinks among her items and curiously asks what they are, but Amelia quickly changes the topic, not wanting to explain. Suzuno then formally introduces herself to Amelia, explaining that she moved into the adjacent quarters just a week ago. She mentions that she comes from a distant land and a family deeply steeped in tradition, which makes it challenging for her to adapt to contemporary manners and customs. Suzuno expresses her hope that Amelia will help her get familiar with the city and its many intricacies. In response, Amelia introduces herself and assures Suzuno that she would be more than happy to help. After the meal, Mawu does the dishes while telling Suzuno about how busy he gets at work. Amelia cuts into the conversation, telling Mawu his work is still the same as always. Hearing this, Mawu stops what he's doing and begins to brag, telling her that while she has been spending her days in a gloomy, gray haze, he has continued to grow as a human. Amelia interrupts, saying she doesn't recall him being human in the first place. Ignoring her, Mawu goes on to tell her that he'll be the shift manager of the McDonald's he works at this coming Sunday. Amelia appears unimpressed and even insults him for thinking something like that is worth bragging about. While watching them argue, Suzuno asks Amelia if she's in any form of close relationship with Mawu, judging by the fact that they do not filter their words while conversing. Amelia gets flustered and swears she wants Mawu to drop dead in that instant. Amelia's spidey senses kick in, so she walks over to Suzuno and quietly asks if she's after Mawu as well. Suzuno drags her outside and asks how she figured it out. Amelia, not wanting to tell her something similar had happened before, tells her it's a gut feeling. Amelia thinks to herself that she initially thought Suzuno was an assassin sent to take Mawu down, but seeing how she hasn't made a move in the weeks since she arrived, she can't be won. She also notes Suzuno's respectful demeanor towards her and concludes she's not a demon. Amelia warns Suzuno not to get too close to Mawu, telling her he's not a man just anyone can handle. Amelia then heads inside to get a piece of paper, writes her contact address on it, and hands it to Suzuno so she can reach her if needed. Suzuno appreciates the gesture. As Amelia takes her leave, she falls down the stairs once more, but luckily latches onto the ledge. The following morning, as Mawu heads to work, Suzuno hands him a lunchbox. During break, Mawu converses with his boss, and right after, he takes out his lunchbox. Chiho finds it weird that he brought lunch, but once she learns his neighbor made it for him, she snaps at him and asks him to open the box. Unfortunately for her, she nearly has a stroke and concludes she has a love rival. Emerata, on the other hand, calls to ask Amelia about the energy-boosting drinks she sent her. Amelia tells her she has been taking them, but has not been able to test them effectively because she has not been in any battles recently. Emerata then warns her to be careful because some people from Enta Isla could be secretly after her. Later that day, while leaving a grocery store, Amelia gets attacked by a masked fellow. She summons her sacred sword and parries the beam fired at her. She does fairly well against the strange technique but gets cornered. Luckily, the convenience store worker attacks the masked figure, covering the person with a drink. The masked guy then flees, but the shop owner tells her to wait behind for a police report. Indoors, while waiting, Amelia notes that the energy drink boosted her magic, but she's bothered about the masked fella. Suddenly, Chiho calls her, saying it's an emergency. Amelia gets worked up, wondering what's wrong, only to hear Chiho talk about Mawu showing up with a lunchbox. Chiho convinces Amelia to visit Mawu's apartment with her so she can find out who prepared the lunchbox she saw with him at work the other day. On that pretext, she brings lunch with the hopes of Mawu, but she nearly freaks out after seeing Suzuno clean Mawu's place. Chiho settles in and is impressed and, at the same time, jealous of Suzuno's skills. While they all gather around the table to eat, Suzuno tells them that the reason she cooks all the time is that she doesn't have a job yet, so she's trying to reduce the cost of feeding herself. Unlike a certain leech amongst them, Mawu then suggests that she come to work at McDonald's with him and Chiho. For the first time, Lucifer and Emilia are on the same page as they realize Ma Wu is setting himself up for women's trouble. Suzuno appreciates his gesture and accepts the offer, telling Chiho she may need to rely on her assistance with getting accustomed to it. Halcyon cuts in and tells her that aside from finding a job, she'll need more assistance with basic materials like clothes. Considering she only has traditional wear, Emilia then suggests helping her shop for clothes. While Emilia and Suzuno go shopping, Ma Wu decides to walk Chiho back home. On their way, Ma Wu asks her if her parents don't have anything to say about her heading off to some guy's place on her own. She replies that they don't see anything wrong, and if anything, they even approve of him. Ma Wu then stops and asks if she's not bothered by the fact that they're demons from another world. Chiho admits that she can't say she's not bothered since Emilia has already given her a rough idea of the things he has done. However, it was already too late since she was already stricken with love. Ma Wu gets flustered and is about to speak, but she interrupts him, telling him not to worry about her. She adds that she fell for him of her own accord, even if it meant ignoring all the warnings Emilia had given her. She tells him she doesn't care if he only sees her as his colleague at work, and that she'll love him regardless of what she is to him. Out of nowhere, Suzuno suddenly shows up and teases Ma Wu for getting a love confession on the roadside. This makes Chiho flustered, and she storms away with his bike. Left alone, Suzuno asks Ma Wu how he feels about being so loved, and he replies that Chiho confessed so straight and clear that he can't gloss over it. Also, because her parents trust him, he has to be sincere. Suzuno then takes her leave to join Emilia back at the station. She meets with Emilia and is curious about boarding a train. Once she confesses, Emilia asks her how she got to Shinjuku. Confused, Suzuno casually tells her she used a gate from Ent Isla. That's when Suzuno realizes that they aren't on the same wavelength. Emilia then yells at her, asking why she never mentioned anything about it earlier, and Suzuno replies saying she was the one who warned her not to get too close to the Dark Lord as it could bring misfortune, so she thought she already knew. In return, she asks Emilia what she meant when she asked if she was after the Dark Lord in the first place. Emilia gets flustered and replies that she just thought Suzuno was trying to get close to him. Suzuno interrupts, explaining that they were informed Emilia might be conspiring with Ma Wu, the Dark Lord, which is why she was sent to their city. Annoyed, Emilia clarifies that she only cooperated with Ma Wu to defeat a common enemy and insists there's nothing more to it. She then questions Suzuno if she was the one who attacked her on the street the other night, but Suzuno seems genuinely unaware of the incident. Emilia explains that she was attacked by someone from Ent Isla who could negate her sacred sword's power. Since the attacker wasn't a demon, Emilia had deduced it must have been Suzuno. However, Suzuno denies the accusation, emphasizing that she's very aware of Emilia the hero's abilities and therefore would never attack her. Emilia believes her and suggests they go shopping before it gets too late. After shopping, Emilia asks Suzuno how she learned about Japan. Suzuno reveals that she was a shut-in who watched a little too many anime recaps. Suzuno also tells her she moved next to Ma Wu's residence, hoping that by monitoring him, Emilia would eventually appear. Emilia questions Suzuno's intentions, and Suzuno reveals she wants Emilia to defeat the Demonlord with her. She then adds that Emilia should return to Ent Isla to clear her name and expose the church's cover-up about Orba. Emilia disagrees, saying she doesn't care about the church or the country's opinions, but cannot trust Suzuno easily since the church's leader caused a mall to collapse and enduring innocent lives just to unalive her and Ma Wu. She asserts that as the hero, she must defeat the Demonlord without interference from anyone. She changes the topic by handing Suzuno some magazines to help her get accustomed to modern culture. With that, she takes her leave for work. Upon getting to work, Chiho apologizes to Ma Wu for running off the previous day, and he brushes it off. A new shop just opened up next to theirs and has been stealing all their customers. In desperation to get their customers back, Kisaki gives Ma Wu her permission to use any means necessary to get their customers back. Minutes later, a young man with blue hair walks in and demands to speak with the manager. Ma Wu tells him she's not available and he should speak to him in her stead. He introduces himself to be the manager of the new shop and brags about how the city is complementing his business. He spots Chiho's huge milk factories and immediately tries rizzing her with corny lines. Instead, she gets spooked by him, so Ma Wu intervenes. After Saru leaves, Ma Wu calms Chiho down and tells her he has sent a spy to check out Saru's business. Time passes, and the workers wait non-stop but do not get a single customer. While Emilia heads home from work with Rika, Suzuno confronts her about Ma Wu, asking if she can accompany her to McDonald's. Rika, on the other hand, interprets the situation as a lover's quarrel, so she insists on tagging along. On getting to McDonald's, the street is busy due to the Sasahata Tanabata festival. deducing that McDonald's must currently be losing business. Rika suggests heading over to the newly opened Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant next door. Waiting in line at the restaurant, Rika asks Amelia and Suzuno to tell her all about Mawu so they can have more clues to resolve their conflict. They place their orders, and Rika handles the bill. However, the attendant, Saru, creeps her out. Upon getting their orders, they settle at a table upstairs. While they eat, Rika poses questions to the two of them about their possible relationship with Mawu. Suzuno replies that Mawu is simply her new neighbor, with whom she gets along, while Amelia states that if she were changed, she'd unalive Mawu without a second thought. Hearing the response, Rika tells Amelia she's not being honest, but Amelia gets upset in the process and begins to hurl verbal insults at Mawu. Alciel, who had been there the whole time, snaps at her for making bad remarks against his master. Back in Ronald's, Mawu wonders what's taking Alciel so long to get back to him. He recalls how he had asked Alciel to go on a reconnaissance mission at the Kentucky Fried Chicken to find out their strengths and weaknesses. Alciel was against the idea due to their financial status, but Mawu had convinced him, claiming it was a requirement to improve his social climb. Interrupting his thoughts, Shiho approaches Mawu and informs him that she and the other employees have completed all the required chores that needed to be done. Mawu takes a look around the restaurant and sees the rest of the employees looking dispirited. He understands their plight since the Sasahata Tanabata Festival, which used to boost their sales, was currently ongoing, and not a single customer had walked into their restaurant. Shiho suggests to him that they stand outside and try to draw customers' attention, but he disagrees with her, thinking of how to get the employees back in high spirits. He gives them a brief motivational speech and instructs them to stand proud because the tides currently favoring their enemies are bound to turn in their favor soon. He then uses that same enthusiasm to get them to do some cleaning jobs around the restaurant. Back at restaurant, Alciel confronts Amelia's table to clear off the slanders raised against his master. While he brags about Mawu, Amelia convinces him to join them by offering to pay for whatever he orders, and he instantly agrees. Confused about who the strange man is, Rika asks Amelia if they're both friends, and they deny it immensely. Alciel then introduces himself to Rika, and she asks him about the misunderstanding of Amelia trying to keep people away from Mawu. Alciel then begins to explain his fictitious background with Mawu, where they owned a company that specialized in land utilization and staff management. He adds that Amelia worked for a rival company at that time. He continues his story, stating that since their companies were rivals, they had been in different situations where they had to compete against Amelia for some jobs. He also adds that Amelia happened to be skilled at what she did and had ended up winning them over in the job contests, so their companies started falling until they went bankrupt and lost their jobs. He adds that Amelia must have taken pity on them, considering their history as old rivals, which is why she comes to check on them now and then. Rika gets touched by the story, which she likens to the story behind the small factory her family used to run in the past. She offers him some words of encouragement, and he thanks her deeply for them. Contrary to what Amelia was expecting, the whole story ends up making Rika more eager to meet Mawu. She asks Alciel to take her to see him, and he agrees to it in exchange for Amelia purchasing the restaurant's desserts and salads, which he had already earned. At Ronald's, Alciel tells Mawu all his findings about the fried chicken restaurant before ordering dinner for himself and Lucifer for the night. After he gets his order, Alciel heads home, leaving the three girls in the restaurant. Mawu then walks over to where the girls are seated and politely asks what they would like to order. However, Amelia answers him rudely and gets him agitated. Rika tells Mawu he's nowhere near as charismatic as she had imagined and suggests that's probably why he seems to be running out of customers. This agitates him more, and he gets into a bit of an argument with a strange customer who just walked into his workplace to cause a stir. Shiho soon joins them and apologizes for Mawu's rudeness towards the customer. She offers them their order and introduces herself to Rika, who instantly pounces on her like she had seen a cute puppy. Rika challenges Mawu to use the information Alciel had gotten from the fried chicken restaurant to his advantage while she watches, and of course, he accepts her challenge. He tries out a couple of innovative tricks to draw in customers, but they avoid the place like the plague. An acquaintance of Mawu suddenly shows up and delivers a couple of bamboo stalks, which he had ordered to decorate the restaurant for the Sasahata Tanabata Festival. Amelia asks Shiho what's going on, and she explains how Mawu had come up with the bamboo stalk idea to draw in customers for the local festival, but wasn't able to carry it out earlier due to delayed approval from the higher-ups. Rika sees how earnest Mawu is with his job, and Amelia admits it. The bamboo stalk idea eventually ends up attracting a lot of customers, making things work out in the end. Suzuno, on the other hand, isn't happy with the outcome. Due to the huge sales recorded the previous day, the McDonald's manager informs Mawu that one of her friends working at Fushima Park has asked her to lend a few talented crew members for an event coming up the following day, so she selects him. She tells him that his travel expenses and allowance will be covered too, and he agrees to go. Shiho also suggests going, but the manager turns down her request, telling her that Ma-woo alone is fit enough for the job. That night in Ma-woo's apartment, Ma-woo and Al-Seal feast on the expired udon, not wanting it to go to waste. Ma-woo tells them about his upcoming work trip to Fushima Park, so Lucifer looks up information about the place online and mentions a few popular spots that'll be opening during the event. One of them includes a haunted house, which he believes is a good place to visit since there will be plenty of fear to tap into and convert into magical energy due to their thin walls. Suzuno listens in on their conversation from the next apartment. That same night, Shiho calls Emilia and asks if she can come with her to Fushima Park, to which Emilia agrees. Minutes later, Suzuno calls Emilia to inform her that she just found out about Ma-woo's intention to collect magical energy at the park the following day. She briefs Emilia on the matter and offers to join her. Emilia then calls Chiho and informs her that Suzuno will tag along. The following day at the park, Ma-woo introduces himself to the branch manager at the McDonald's venue in Fushima Park. She briefs all the staff and encourages them to do their best. Shiho meets up with Emilia and Suzuno at the entrance of Fushima Park, and they head to the girls' locker room to change into their bathing suits. There, Emilia feels oppressed by the massive nullins Chiho has, making her feel inferior. They then spot Suzuno, who had changed into traditional swimwear as if she wanted to use the hot springs. Thankfully, they help her change into something decent. Ma-woo, on the other hand, diligently performs his work duties, and the branch manager compliments him for doing a good job. Suddenly, Shiho shows up as one of the customers and checks on him while placing an order. She then indirectly asks him what he thinks about her swimsuit, but Ma-woo, as dense as ever, flops a win-win situation by providing answers to the unasked. Suzuno and Emilia then appear to make Ma-woo aware of their presence. Back at Ma-woo's apartment, Al-Seal, who was meant to accompany Ma-woo, wages war in the bathroom due to the udon overload he had eaten the night before. At the park, the girls happily converse, but when they hear screams from the haunted house, their curiosity gets the better of them. During their visit to the haunted house, Shiho runs off after being spooked by a silhouette. This makes Emilia and Suzuno search for her in the cold, dark building. While at it, they encounter a girl who keeps asking for her mom. They immediately conclude she got lost and offer to help her. To their horror, the girl twists her head around, giving them the biggest scare of their lives, making them dash out of the building. The trio meets up outside the building and decides to visit the reptile exhibit. Although Emilia and Chiho hold unfavorable opinions of reptiles, Suzuno tells them about how she sneaked up on reptiles during her time at an inn. Emilia quickly interrupts her to prevent her from revealing too much about their backgrounds to Chiho. Coincidentally, Ma-woo is sent to the circus. At the circus, a monkey gets a hold of a bunch of keys dropped by a security guard and finds its way into the reptile exhibit. As soon as it sees Chiho's bazingas, it leaps at them to cop a feel. When the circus worker realizes the monkey is missing, he looks for it, but then sees Chiho and the girls heading his way. Coincidentally, the monkey's name matches Ma-woo's, so the girls tease the Demonlord. Unknown to them, the monkey had inserted the keys into the key slots of the cages holding the alligators and freed them in the process. The alligators get into the pools and cause pandemonium, making all the inhabitants of the park, including the workers, flee. While everybody runs to safety, Ma-woo walks towards the pool, showcasing that he's Walter White. He absorbs the fear from the people and then uses his magic to tame the creatures. Once again, Suzuno looks at him angrily and confused, wondering why he didn't use the fear to wreak havoc. Later that day, Emilia's group takes the train ride back home and talks about the hectic events that took place. As Chiho counts her blessings because no one got hurt and they had fun, Emilia notices Suzuno is troubled. Later that night, Chiho and Suzuno part ways with Emilia. As they head home, Suzuno spots a mysterious man in the shadows. She then sees it's Saru, and to his surprise, he sprouts wings before vanishing. Al-Seal continues to experience his health issues, so Ma-woo plans to prepare dinner. Just as he's about to start cooking, the doorbell rings, indicating a delivery. Multiple boxes of souvenirs have been sent from their landlady in Hawaii, who demands that they sell them at the summer bazaar in the shopping district. Suzuno eavesdrops on their conversation again from her apartment. She recalls how she had confronted Saru at the train station the other night, who knew she was affiliated with the Church of Ent Isla and addressed her as Death Scythebel, the Ray Upper. Suzuno flashes back to when she was still part of the Inquisition, overhearing a group of men talking about a rogue allied Knights Order. Back then, Suzuno heard how they had planned to sacrifice a small village to the demon army and blame it on the church for not protecting the village. So she showed up, and they realized she had poisoned their drinks. After carrying out her mission, she met with Alba from the outskirts of town, who handed her another list of names while telling her not to question him about the church's way of handling affairs. Presently, Chiho shows up at Mawu's apartment and is stunned by the numerous boxes scattered around the place. She asks about them, and they tell her about the shopping bazaar and how their landlady is trying to take part in it. Lucifer then reveals that he has slipped a tracker into Amelia's purse, and she is on her way to their place. To their surprise, they see her right in front of Suzuno's door. Just like that, they rope her into their mess. As they go through the boxes, Chiho admires Mekidi's milker holders, and Amelia acts delusional, speaking like a kitten that can fit a lion's shoes. Lucifer tries to point out the obvious, but she silences him and continues in her delusions. While at it, they discover some canned food and drinks, along with a note from the landlady encouraging them to enjoy it together. They dig into the juice but leave Lucifer out of it since he's a big slacker. The group then assists Mawu in moving the merchandise to the shopping district and helps sell it at the bazaar until he leaves for his night shift. At McDonald's. Later, Suzuno leaves the group and encounters Saru, who reminds her of her mission to take Mawu down. Lucifer, who stays behind, gets frustrated at Alciel due to his non-stop wailing about his tummy. He tells him to get his act together or he's calling an ambulance. Alciel tries to stop him, claiming they're broke, but Lucifer disregards him and does as he pleases. Meanwhile, Chiho and Amelia meet up with Suzuno, and they ask her why she had secluded herself from them, to which she responds by saying she needed some space to gather her thoughts. While the girls head home, Suzuno suddenly reveals her intentions of defeating Mawu to them. Perplexed by Suzuno's declaration, Chiho asks to understand why she would say such a thing. Suzuno explains that Mawu has been secretly using his magic in their world, and is therefore a dangerous person. She claims he used magic the night their restaurant drew many customers during the festival, but Chiho cuts in, calling it all a farce. Suzuno still insists that Mawu is dangerous because he could secretly be plotting to conquer the world, but Chiho counters her, saying someone trying his hardest to climb the ladder of Ronald's is incapable of conquering the world. Suzuno remains firm in her convictions and plans to erase all of Chiho's memories about him and the rest of them associated with Ent Isla, which makes Chiho sad. Chiho claims that it's her memory and she chose to have them, so nobody has the right to tamper with them. Left with no choice, Amelia intervenes. She admits that Mawu is bad, but then tells Suzuno not to do something that would make her friend cry. With that, she declares she wants to find a way to bring world peace without having to slay anyone. Suzuno, who is used to dirtying her hands, calls her delusional. Once she learns that Suzuno doesn't plan to take Mawu down anytime soon, she angrily walks away. While Amelia and Chiho discuss what just happened with Suzuno, they are suddenly attacked by the masked guy with the strange light technique. Amelia protects Chiho and creates a safe distance before summoning her sacred sword and charging at him. Chiho, on the other hand, tries to contact Mawu for help. This time, things seem different as the guy overpowers Amelia easily and uses his purple light technique to shrink her sacred weapon again. He takes off his mask, and Amelia sees he is Saru, Kentuck's creepy manager. He transforms into a fallen angel and knocks Amelia out. Being unable to reach Mawu, Chiho screams at the top of her voice for help, but Suzuno suddenly shows up and apologizes before putting her in a trance too. Mawu, who is still at work, receives a call from Chiho's mother, asking why her daughter hasn't returned home. He quickly contacts Lucifer, who tracks Chiho's and Amelia's locations. From his findings, he tells Mawu that the girls have likely been kidnapped and are being taken to City Hall. Mawu instantly hops on his bike and pedals into the night. Alciel wakes up on a hospital bed and laments over his current circumstances. A nurse then walks in and is pleased to see him awake. The miser asks to confirm if his health insurance would cover the medical bills, and she affirms. Relieved, he decides to take a tour of the hospital before returning to his room. Across the hallway, he stumbles upon a police officer lying unconscious on the floor, so he rushes over to see what's going on. Suddenly, a figure nearly knocks the daylight out of him. While lamenting in pain, Alciel catches a glimpse of the man's face and sees that it's Orba, who had recently woken up after being hospitalized for a long while, snatches Alciel's insurance card before leaving. Meanwhile, Mawu races to City Hall. On the City Hall's rooftop, Serial fires light beams at Amelia, demanding that she hand over better half, the sacred weapon, to him. She tells him she can't, since the weapon is drawn to her, but Serial insists that the weapon belongs to heaven collectively and must be returned. Still in pain, Amelia asks him to let go of Chiho, but Serial tells her he wants to use Chiho to research the effect of Mawu's power. Mawu bumps into a barrier cast around City Hall and falls off his bike. Serial, who is busy torturing Amelia, notices Mawu's presence and sends Suzuno to deal with him. just as Suzuno is about to leave. Emilia asks her if she's alright with things turning out the way the Archangel wants, but Suzuno evades the question. Meanwhile, Mawu uses all his magical energy to break the barrier, but he nearly gets bonked on the head like whack-a-mole. Unfortunately, his bicycle takes the brunt of it. Suzuno watches him bawling his eyes out, knowing it must have cost him a fortune. Still, she attacks him, but to her surprise, he takes off his work clothes, stating he can't afford a new pair if they get ruined. He reveals he knew her identity from the beginning, but ignored it because of how well she treated his friends. He then tells her he doesn't have time to waste because he has to save his friends. She tells him it's pointless, citing how weak he is and how Serial grows stronger the closer he gets to the moon. To her surprise, he tells her to watch him, adding that he's aware she secretly wants him to win, which is why she allowed Chiho to place a call through to him the other time. Suzuno gets flustered by his words and lets him go. Back at Mawu's apartment, Orba visits Lucifer and offers him a deal to return to heaven. Upon hearing him out, Lucifer smirks at the proposal. Serial, who is very impatient, tries to forcibly extract the sacred weapon from Emilia, so Cheeto calls him names. For the first time, Emilia verbally defends Mawu and tells Serial he's going to get mollywopped. The aforementioned, on the other hand, struggles up the stairs, and when he finally arrives at the rooftop, Emilia nearly takes back everything she said about him due to public indecency. Leak a generic villain, Serial welcomes Mawu and fires light beams at his feet. The legendary Demonlord is blown back, but quickly gets to his feet. Meanwhile, Orba replenishes his magic using Emilia's energy-boosting drink and casts a spell that enlarges the moon, enhancing Serial's magic and causing widespread panic throughout the city. This panic significantly boosts Mawu's magic, yet Serial remains confident in his own power. Suddenly, Lucifer asks for Emilia's bag, saying he'd like to return it to her. That's when it dawns on Orba that Lucifer is on Mawu's side, and as he tries to run off, Lucifer knocks him out. Chiho has a dream where she's on the city hall's rooftop with Mawu. There, Mawu tells her he has to return to Ent Isla. She begs him not to go, but after seeing how adamant he is, she asks him to take her with him. Despite her plea, he refuses, reminding her that they are from different worlds. With that, he pecks her forehead and walks toward a gate to Ent Isla. Chiho screams his name and wakes up crying. Later that day at work, she tells Mawu about the dream, and Mawu explains that he can't return to Ent Isla because he exhausted all his magical energy trying to clean up the damage caused on the streets from the previous day's battle. Curious, Mawu asks her if that's all she dreamt about, but Cheeto grins as she recalls him pecking her head. Kisaki suddenly enters the room, asking for Mawu and inquiring what led to him running off with a mop stick the previous night. At that moment, Suzuno shows up and tells Kisaki that Mawu came to save her. Cheeto also admits that she was a victim of a creep, but thanks to Mawu's bravery, they were saved. An employee suddenly barges in and informs them that they have just found a person inside their freezer. When they get there, they see it's Serial. He wakes up shortly after seeing Kisaki and falls in love at first sight. The freak flatters her with words, but creeps her out. She calls him a creep and asks who he is, and Mawu immediately replies that Serial is the manager of the Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant. Serial continues to fawn over Kisaki and even dives at her for a hug, but Kisaki evades him and kicks him in the head. Something inside of Serial snaps, and he gladly welcomes her to step on him. Emilia also has a nightmare where she's at work on a normal day. Then everyone disappears and the sky turns red. She then heads over to the window only to see Mawu in his full demon form, laughing like he's got some screws loose and declaring his victory over their city. He then vows to conquer all the neighboring cities until he eventually takes over the world. She wakes up immediately and thinks about her dream. Later that day, after work, Emilia is lost in thoughts about the dream, and Rika walks up to her and invites her for dinner, which she declines, saying she has other plans. Rika, as usual, then teases her, saying she should stop making excuses to see Mawu. While Emilia walks over to Mawu's apartment, she reminds herself that she had lost her father in village to Mawu's forces, so she can never forgive him. Still, a part of her feels different. Emilia quickly assures herself that she and Mawu are polar ends, so she doesn't know when next he'll bare his fangs. By the time Emilia arrives at Mawu's place, she gets flustered after seeing Suzuno feed him. Cheeto, who only had her back turned against them for a few moments, reacts at Suzuno for acting like a clip from Family Strokes. While she argues with Suzuno, Alciel suddenly enters and tells Mawu he wants to take some time off to go on a vacation. Back at her apartment, Emilia contacts Emerada and shares her suspicions about Alciel's sudden departure. She points out that Mawu had refused to discuss it right in their presence. Following up with her suspicions, Emilis notices some boxes being delivered to Mawu's apartment and she tells Emerauda about it. Meanwhile, at McDonald's, Ma-woo asks Kisaki to change his shifts, which seems very unusual for him. Shiho overhears him and later confronts him about it, asking if he's leaving for Ent Isla. Ma-woo repeats like a broken radio that he doesn't have the magic for that. Leak a nosy housewife. Shiho prods further, but Ma-woo refuses to talk more about the matter. The following morning, Emilia and Chiho are determined to uncover what Ma-woo is up to, so they secretly stalk him as he leaves his apartment and follow him to a construction site. At first, Emilia wonders if Ma-woo has started building his empire, but she dismisses the thought when she sees him joining the workers in the construction. He notices them and ends up explaining his situation. Ma-woo reveals that they are in urgent need of money, thanks to Lucifer, who splurged their savings on trackers he had put in their belongings. Surprised, Emilia and Chiho find the tracker and get mad. Ma-woo then explains how it came in handy during Serial's incident and that it's not entirely a bad thing. He also apologizes for not opening up sooner, saying he feared they would feel indebted to help him out after all he had done for them. He adds that since payday isn't anytime soon, he has to take up an extra job to earn money, noting that Alciel had gone to do the same elsewhere. Emilia then asks him about the mysterious boxes that were delivered to his apartment, but Ma-woo isn't aware of them. After work, they all head back to his apartment and discover that Lucifer had fallen victim to a purchase scam, putting them in huge debt. They contact the company associated with the scam and try to return the items, but the company refuses. Annoyed, they visit the company's office and are surprised to learn that Alciel works there. When they explain what happened, Alciel feels distraught that he got tricked and likens his employer to the devil. Emilia tells him to get a load of himself. They confront the company owner, but he insists that the contract had been signed, so it was a mutual agreement. He intimidates them and corners them, forcing them to give up and head home dejectedly. On the way, Emilia asks how old Lucifer is based on Earth years, and once she sees he's an adult, she invokes the cooling off policy that Guardians can implement. This cancels the debt, and the scammer is forced to take back the boxes. To celebrate their victory, Ma-woo and Alciel treat themselves to a bowl of udon. They go over the fact that Emilia helped them out of their mess, and Ma-woo says he wants to add her to his legion, though Alciel takes it as a joke. One particular night, it rains heavily, and Ma-woo gets drenched because he doesn't have an umbrella. Out of nowhere, Emilia hands in one while reminding him that she's simply returning the favor. He reluctantly accepts it, but then thanks her. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed until now, comment down below, Mommy Milkers. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want me to post Chiyo's Unplotted.